Hello, everyone, and welcome to another enriching session at Bulletin Box. I'm Bhavika Bhatia, your host for today, and an HR professional with over 13 years of work experience across varied roles. The Bulletin Box is an open content platform run by a set of passionate volunteers and brings to you insightful editorials, podcasts, and workshops with an aim to deliver informative content for thousands of readers. As a part of our Bulletin Box campaign for mental wellness, we are happy to bring to you yet another interesting podcast on mental wellness. Today, we have with us Corina Zanner Entwistle, founder and CEO of Executive Mind Solutions, which delivers corporate mental health and well-being facilitation for international businesses. Executive Mind Solutions is dedicated to helping CEOs and their workforce manage stress, prevent burnout, and have more work life balance to do things they love with the people they love. She's passionate about making an impact within the wider community beyond the office. Originally from South Africa, Corina has spent 20 plus years working in Europe and various countries across the Middle East. Corina is known for her cutting edge approach and powerful mindset strategies that help her clients achieve results really, really fast. As someone naturally drawn to helping others, Corina is passionate about creating awareness around mental health and burnout prevention, and I'm looking forward to our interaction today. Once again, a very warm welcome to you, Corina.
Hi, Bhavika. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, and thank you for having me here. I'm excited to be here and talking to you today.
Thank you, Corina, and I'm really looking forward to our interaction today. So the first question that I have from you, basis your in-depth and so many years of wonderful experience, today the need for mental well-being is increasing day by day. What do you see as the key difference between mental health and mental illness?
That's a really good question, Bhavika, because I think many people kind of put the two together. But mental health, mental well-being is a spectrum, and all of us will have times when we feel better mentally and times when we will have challenges, and that is just part of the human condition. So, and when we get to mental illness, obviously it's like being ill. It's like when we have the flu or when we have some other kind of illness. But it doesn't mean that we cannot recover and that we cannot get well again. So really, as I said, mental health and mental illness, there's a wide spectrum in between. And we will all be somewhere on that spectrum at different times in our life. And, we can also have a big influence on how we feel mentally and emotionally. And in reality, we have much more influence over that than we think we have. We tend to think that we have no control over the way we feel and what's going on in our head, but we actually have a lot of control over that. And once we become aware of it, then we can start implementing strategies to help us to manage that, as we'll talk about as we go along.
Yeah, that's really insightful, and I can so relate to it, Corina. I think in the initial last 2 years, as especially when the COVID hit and we were in the first wave, I think I kept juggling, with very similar thoughts that you mentioned, and due to lack of clarity in terms of what is it that I want, how am I feeling, it was difficult to focus. So I can completely relate to it, and I'm sure all our listeners, are looking forward to more insights. So moving, from there, what are some of the key myths of mental well-being, and how can one get rid of it?
Well, in reality, we don't want to get rid of mental well-being. We want to be mentally well, right?
Yeah.
And so I think some of the key things about mental well-being is really about mindset and awareness. Because as I mentioned just now, is once we become aware of our thoughts, then we can start to change them. And a lot of what we do and what we think happens on a subconscious level. And therefore, once we bring those subconscious thoughts and repetitive thoughts to our awareness, so for example, if we keep thinking about, oh, I'm feeling so terrible, and we keep feeding ourselves these thoughts, then we will keep going into more and more of a downward spiral. But once we can become aware of these thoughts, we can go, okay, I realize what's happening. Now, what can I do to change that? Then we can start to really take control. So mindset really is a huge, huge part of mental wellness. And but then there's also things like lifestyle. What are we doing on a daily basis? You mentioned, for example, the pandemic. And one of the biggest, us humans were a strange species.
Yeah, that's true.
Because one of the things we hate more than anything is change. But one of the things that is absolutely guaranteed in our lives is change. And so we need to be able to learn and adapt. And in reality, from the moment that we're born to the moment that we die, we are in a constant state of change, and yet we don't like it. And that causes uncertainty. It causes fear. And as you mentioned, like the pandemic, there was so much, and there still is uncertainty, so much fear going around.
Yeah.
So many people feeling so isolated. I mean, there's so many things. We can just talk about the pandemic on its own, and these things cause stress. And the more that we ourselves allow ourselves to go into that, the more our mental health will suffer. And so, making sure we eat well, making sure we have a good lifestyle, the normal things. People think that mental health is something really way out and some kind of magic, but the reality is actually it's not. It's simple everyday strategies in the way that we live our lives. As I said, living, eating healthily, having fresh air, having exercise, having social interaction. These are some of the fundamental things that we need as human beings, and that feed our soul and feed our mind and help us to stay in a good, positive place. So yes, those are some of the real absolute basics. And like I said, mental health is not rocket science. It's simple strategies that we can apply on a daily basis that will help us to feel better and perform better.
Yeah, you actually make it, sound so easy, Corina. It's as simple as making some little changes in your day-to-day life, which can, bring a large and a long-term impact, a positive impact, in our lives. So I really take this back, as after our interaction today.
Yeah, and really, Bhavika, that is so true. And I can't really emphasize it enough, because it's the small steps that we take every day that lead us to big change. And when my kids were younger, I always told them, and I still tell them, I say, it's the little things that you do that make the big difference. For example, thinking about my kids when they were younger, and they leave a pair of shoes at the bottom of the stairs, and then comes a jumper, and then comes the next thing, and suddenly there's a big pile.
Yeah.
But if they just take that one pair of shoes and take it upstairs and put it away, and take the jumper and put it away, suddenly everything is clean. And it's the same with other areas of our lives. It's the small things that make a big difference.
Yeah, very true.
And
very
the more we put onto that pile, the bigger it grows.
Yeah.
And that happens in our head. That pile happens in our head.
Yes, absolutely. So, considering, as we are talking about, some changes, and as we said, change is the only constant. The last 2 years, all of us experienced a big change in our lives as we moved to, employers supporting remote working to their employees as obviously we were not able to go to our workplaces. How do you suggest an employer can give the right environment to their employees to ensure their mental well-being, especially in a hybrid environment where they are partially working from home? Some of the offices today are open. How can we prioritize mental well-being, and how can the employer support them?
Well, I think the first thing, again, for any employer is be human. Once again, these things, it's not rocket science, be human, be kind, be compassionate. If your staff are struggling with some kind of things, how can you help them? How can you support them? Rather than looking at your watch, you're late, Bhavika, what's going on? You could say, Bhavika, I noticed you're a bit late today. Is everything okay? Is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything? Are you managing? Is your workspace at home okay? What can I support you with? Just that small question, asking them, what can you do to help them, already goes a very far way. And when employees feel supported, that makes such a huge difference to their mental well-being, their performance, their productivity, and they will go to the end of the earth for their employer, and as I say, it's not big, difficult things. It's not magic. It's just be human, be kind, find out what's going, have a conversation with your employee. Hey, Bhavika, how are you doing today? How's the family? Is everything okay? It's not just about the work. It's not just about the numbers. It's not just about being available 24/7, and again, what are you as an employer doing to make sure that your staff is getting enough downtime? Because that is one of the biggest, I would say, things in terms of mental health. We all expect to be available 24/7. You work over hours, you work at weekends, you work all the time, and it's all this pressure. And then we wonder why people burn out. Yeah. We are not machines. We need downtime. And although it sounds like such a contradiction, in reality, the more time that you give your staff to recover, to re-energize, to refuel, the better they will be able to perform. So that's another really, really big factor in terms of supporting your staff. And, again, with the work-home issue, find out from your staff, what is it at home that's working for you? Is it working for you? And what is not working? And the same in the office, working at home obviously brings many more new other challenges that weren't there before. And so it's finding out from your staff, what are the issues for them? And it could be different for everybody. Yeah. For you might prefer to go into the office 5 days a week, but for me, it might be better to be able to say, Bhavika, I can only come in 2 days a week or 3 days a week, or I can't come in, but I'm having all the stress. Find out what works for your staff.
Right. I think I can completely relate to it. In the last, 2-3 years, I've seen a lot of examples, some success stories, some struggles, and most of the points that you shared, when managers have implemented it or the leaders have implemented it, it has always worked in the benefit of both the organization and the employees. It's always been a win-win situation. So I can completely relate to what you just mentioned. And, one of the...
Sorry to interrupt, but that's what it is all about, It is about win-win.
Yeah.
Your staff, and a lot of companies say, oh, our staff is the most important thing, but in reality it isn't. The way they treat their staff their staff does not feel like they are important at all. Yeah. But, when the staff do feel important, when they do feel valued, when they do feel heard and acknowledged, again, that makes such a huge difference to the way you feel as a person. And the way you feel as a person affects your mental health. And, we spend so much of our time at work that it needs to be a positive environment. And companies and organizations can really implement strategies that become part of the business strategy. You know, a lot of companies, again, and they're doing good stuff, don't get me wrong. They have things like mental health days. They have things like access to support when staff need it. And that's great. But even better is to start implementing these things before staff even get to that point, prevent them from getting to that point. And that will also make a huge difference to the ROI of the company.
Yeah.
So when companies start employing mental health strategies as part of their business strategy and business culture, that's when they start to actually see real change. And there's so many things, and again, not rocket science things, simple strategies, simple tools that they can implement on a daily basis that over time create massive change. And then the organization will change, the company will change, the performance and productivity will change, and of course the results will change too.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you did mention that communication is one of the key factors, to be connected with the team, understand what are their expectations, what flexibility they need. So my next question is around that. How can the leaders be more connected with their team members and be able to proactively identify if any team members is going through any mental well-being challenge? How can the leaders identify such team members and support them?
Okay, again, very often it can be quite difficult actually, because people don't want to talk about it or are ashamed or are scared, so they might not want to talk about it. So of course, one of the most important things is finding ways of opening up that conversation within the workplace. And, I think one of the problems is that because there's still so much sort of shame around the topic, people don't want to open up. And I think that a lot of people feel, oh, if I talk about mental health, then I've got to tell everybody my deepest secrets. And I think it doesn't have to be that way. I think it can be, for example, first of all, I think employers need to know their staff, or team leaders need to know their teams. So as we mentioned earlier, everybody is an individual. Everybody has different challenges.
Yep.
And so, for example, one simple idea is having something like a robot system. So, for example, let's say if I have a red post-it on my door, for me, that might be, listen, guys, I'm having a bad day. Just don't talk to me for the next hour. Leave me alone and I'll be fine. But you, on the other hand, might have a red sticker on your door, and which means, hey, guys, I'm not having a great day. I'd like to have a chat. I want to talk.
Yeah.
And providing that space for different people to have different needs met in a simple way, in which they don't necessarily have to talk about their deepest secrets, but the conversation can still be opened, And again, as I mentioned earlier, is of course being aware, knowing your staff, knowing your team members. If you're usually a very bubbly, outgoing person and suddenly you become very quiet, my first inclination would be to say, hey, Bhavika, are you okay? Is everything okay? And you'll say, yes, everything's fine, or no, I'm not so great. Okay, well, do you want to talk about it? Or is there anything I can do to support you? So again, it's those simple strategies. If, for example, so if you notice a change in behavior in staff members, that's definitely something to look out for. Obviously there's personal sort of signals to look out for as well. So if the individual is maybe struggling and maybe not aware, for them to be aware of things like sleeping patterns, eating patterns, become aware of your emotions, behavior patterns, all those kind of things, when there's changes in those kind of things, that's a time to be alert and to think, okay, what's going on? What can I do? Does this person need extra support, or, what are the next steps?
Right. I think that's pretty important. And, one key message that I took from here is that the leaders really need to know their team well to be able to identify any early signs of, disengagement or any concerns or challenges that their teams must be going through. And staying connected is the key here. Another question that I have for you here, is related, but on the other side of the table. So when the employees reach out to their managers with any issue that they must be facing, our managers are not well trained enough to, handle such issues, right? So what is it that they should do? What are the steps that they should take? Because it's a very sensitive matter. So how should they handle it?
Well, again, it depends on exactly what the issue is and, where the employee is on that spectrum.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's a real, a serious mental health issue, then they should get support from outside, from a counselor or a medical profession, a psychologist, a psychotherapist, doctor, whatever. And, hopefully the organization will have access to some of those people. Maybe they will be partnering with them. But as against that, the manager is not a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not their job to counsel those people. But sometimes all the person needs is to be heard. Sometimes, and very, very often, in therapy, why therapy works? Because you've got somebody that's listening to you, that's not judging you, and that's why therapy works so well, because you just have somebody that's to talk to and somebody that listens to you and acknowledges your feelings. And I think that's important for, anybody in that situation. If you are approached, or a manager or the CEO, just first listen, try to understand, try to, not be judgmental, but just listen. Listening is such a powerful skill.
Yeah.
And most of us, again, have never been trained to actually listen properly. We just take it for granted. But most of the time when we're having a conversation, we're not actually listening properly, because half our mind is already starting to think about the answer and arguing against what you've just said.
That's very true.
Yeah, so just being able to listen to that person, and again, asking, how can I support you? What do you need? Is very, very powerful.
Yeah, I think it's always said that good managers are good listeners, but it's also important to add that you also, good managers also need to be non-judgmental, so that you are listening, one, with your complete focus, and you're not judging that person, and the person is comfortable sharing with you whatever he or she feels. So, that's important.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, also feeling safe, knowing that whatever information I share with you is going to be safe with you. It's going to be confidential. It's not going to go whatever the whole company is suddenly going to know about what I've shared with you. I think that's also very important, is confidentiality in situations like that. But of course, as I said, it's not the jobs, the manager is not a counselor or a therapist.
Yeah.
So that's not their job. But to be able to provide that kind of support for them, to be able to refer them to somebody that can help them, I think that is very important. And having maybe that kind of support within the company already is very beneficial.
Yeah. So, we've heard your perspective and a lot of practical solutions on what should leaders do, what should organizations do, what should managers do. My last bit is on the employees themselves. So, are there any behaviors, do's and don'ts that an employee should keep in mind when going through the mental well-being issues?
Yes. First of all, I think one of the most important things is to know and understand that whatever you are going through is temporary. You know, we all, every single human being on this earth will go through some kind of challenges at some point, and usually at various points within their lives. But knowing that this is a temporary situation, yes, it's a crappy situation, excuse me on my language, it's not a good situation.
Yeah.
And of course, I accept that, and I accept that I feel bad about it, but I also, knowing that it's temporary and I will get through this, is very powerful. And then also, you know, if I'm feeling bad, where can I get support? What kind of support do I need? I think that's very important. So the first thing is to know and understand that whatever you're going through, it will pass and you will get through it. And you have to keep telling yourself that, no matter how bad you feel and how worried you are, reassure yourself that you will get through this. Because the opposite of that is that you reassure yourself that you will not get through this.
Yeah.
And you know what? The brain is a very powerful thing. What you tell it to do, it will do. So what you expect to happen will happen. So the more we tell ourselves something will not happen or something will happen, the more that is likely to happen, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So reassure yourself that even though you're feeling bad, you're going through challenges, life is hard at the moment, but you will get through this. I think, you know, that is a really very powerful thing to hold on to. And then focusing on the things that you can do. You know, when things are so bad, what can I do that will help me right now? You know, what can I do in this situation? So let's say, for example, let's talk about COVID, for example. Yeah. And when we were all in lockdown and we couldn't go out, we cannot change COVID. We cannot change the pandemic. We don't have any control over that. But what we can control is how we think about it and how we feel about it. So, okay, let's say we're all in lockdown and we can't go to work. Okay, what can we do? We can Zoom. We can make sure we eat healthily. We can make sure that we stay in touch with our loved ones. We can, you know, and you start thinking about all the things that you can do rather than the things that you can't do. And that also is extremely powerful, because in the same way, when you start looking at everything that you can't do, number one, you pull yourself further and further down.
Yeah.
And that mountain gets bigger and bigger. But in the same way, if you just stop, take a deep breath, because that already starts to balance the hormones in your body, that deep breath. And then think, okay, what can I do? Okay, well, I can phone, I can Zoom, I can, I can still go outside for a walk. I can still get fresh air. I can still exercise. I can still, and like I said, you start to look for all the things you can do.
Yeah.
With that, and suddenly the can-do mountain gets much bigger. Yeah. And that's a very powerful thing. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, simple things, lifestyle is so important. You know, making sure we have enough sleep, making sure we eat healthy, making sure we have exercise and fresh air on a daily basis. You know what? And I might not be able to exercise for an hour every day, but you know what? I can do 10 minutes. I might not be able to go outside because it's too cold. Ask me, and I hate the cold. But you know what I can do? I can put on a Zumba class on my iPad and I can dance in my lounge. For example, I can do a 20-minute workout. I can do a 15-minute. So what can I do? And there's so many things that we can do. And the other thing is gratitude. Focus on the things that you are really grateful for. And, you know, there's a lot of science around this. But when you are grateful for something, you cannot be unhappy about something at the same time. It's just the way the brain and the body and the mind and everything works. So really focus every day, maybe on 3 things that you're truly grateful for. And what would your life be like if you didn't have those things? Very powerful for mental health issues. And, doing things for other people is also very, very powerful, because when we stop thinking about ourselves and start thinking about others, that creates hormonal changes in the body that make us feel better.
Yeah.
So that's, our body has already been designed to help us through these stressful periods, by doing these different things. And we have all of those resources to help ourselves within ourselves, and finding things that release serotonin in our bodies, because, serotonin is the feel-good hormone. And things like exercise, kindness, gratitude, those are all things that release serotonin in our bodies. And sleep. Yes. Is like so top priority. Many people think, I don't need that much sleep. But when you don't get enough sleep, your body actually goes into shutdown. You cannot think, you cannot function properly. So sleep is so important. And the other thing is social media, the news. Oh my goodness, it's just full of negativity. If you just watch the news all day, I mean, geez, we all feel down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Switch it. Don't listen to the news all day. Listen once, get what you need to get, but leave it at that, because we are being inundated. We are being brainwashed with all this negativity. Of course, we're going to feel terrible. So find things that will make you laugh. Watch a feel-good movie. Don't watch all these horror things that make you feel bad. There's enough badness. Watch a feel-good movie. Watch a silly movie. It doesn't matter. Watch something that makes you laugh. Watch a funny video clip. Have a laugh with a friend. These simple things, like I say, they are so simple, but they are so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. To in fact summarize our interaction today, one word that comes to my mind is positivity. Whatever you said, it's about building a lot of positive vibes and positivity around you, whether it is having the right mindset, to have gratitude towards whatever you have in life, be thankful to people around you, and of course, if as a part of an organization, to be a good listener, be non-judgmental, and be committed towards improving people's lives around you, take them along with you. So a lot of wonderful messages, Corina, that we've heard from you today, and I'm sure even if we our listeners can pick up one thing and implement it starting tomorrow, it's going to change their life for better. So I'm really grateful for this conversation with you today. Just to sign off, for all our Bulletin listeners, if you are a passionate writer, love to express with words, have knowledge and unique perspectives to share, or would like to be featured in the context of our platforms, do reach out to us. Do subscribe to Bulletin Box and stay connected. Thank you so much. And thanks again, Corina, for your time.
Thank you very much, Bhavika, for having me. It's been wonderful chatting to you.
Same here. Look forward.
And me
Bye.
too. Bye.